these screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight it is the winning report. That's right, all the news except we win, because we're always winning, because we're not bodies, we're not physical things. That's just an aspect of us. Our eternal self is soul. It is beyond all of this. And we can use our mind, a gift of soul, of spirit, of God, of source, in order to understand the world and ourselves better, especially seeing through the psyops, the agendas, all of the logical fallacies that are presented in this society in order to detract from what's actually true, what's good, true, and beautiful. And when we do all of that, we win no matter what happens. So let's keep winning tonight, as always. One psyop we'll just get right off our backs here, and we'll see through is this whole ICE versus leftists thing. This is absolutely like every other psyop concocted for you, intentionally pulled off. And the number one thing that matters most about this issue is that there is nothing new happening. Nothing new is happening. Whatever you think ICE is doing right now, they've been doing it for your entire life. Whatever you think is different about what ICE is doing right now is not different, and it has been happening for your entire life. Nobody cared about it until the media told them to. The exact same media just a few years ago wasn't doing what they're doing now, which is only making ICE out to stop and everything they do is wrong, and they're violent and aggressive and bad, and they're kidnapping people, and they're wearing masks, and all of which has always been happening. But a few years ago, they were like, ICE is great. Look at ICE. They're getting really dangerous, illegal criminals off of our streets. Isn't that so nice? Oh, how good of ICE to do that. That's great. And now they're doing the opposite. So if you're stupid enough to be upset about them because the media told you to be, you're not winning. You're part of the problem. And I'm happy to try to disabuse you of those illusions. Now, none of that means that you have to love ICE or love that we have borders and boundaries in our world, or that there's the legal system exists, or any of that. You don't have to like it. You just at least have to recognize, I didn't even think about this for one day of the past 5 years. And then all of a sudden I think about it every day, and I'm very upset, and I'm fearful, and I'm nervous, and I'm worried that bad things are happening, that I'm supposed to do something about it, even though nothing new is happening in your world that was not happening before. Yeah, maybe you were ignorant about the fact that we had illegal immigrants and also agents who deported the illegal immigrants your whole life. Maybe you didn't know that. Maybe you genuinely were shocked to discover that, yes, illegal immigrants do have an entire process by which we deport them out of our country. Maybe you didn't know that every country on earth has been doing that for your entire life. And maybe you didn't know that anytime anybody plans and carries out a disruption of a law enforcement action, they are often detained themselves, held back, pushed, shoved, thrown, handcuffed, taken away, imprisoned for a time, perhaps longer if they go to trial and are charged with something and found guilty. Maybe you didn't know that. And if so, I'm so shocked that you made it this far. I'm shocked. I'm shocked at how many people genuinely have big emotions about this. It literally beats me. And people are like, you have no heart. I've had the exact same level of heart and compassion for illegal immigrants my entire life. My entire life. I've said, "Yep, I totally get it. I would try to come here too." Yeah, if you're just keeping your nose down, you're doing what you need to do and whatever, and you're not hurting anyone, I would love it if you don't get deported. That'd be great. And if you're defrauding the system and getting any kind of care or support, any kind of even the NGOs or the nonprofits or the whatever, then I start to get a little bit like, that's not really that fair. There's plenty of people here that needed the support first way before you got here. And then especially if you're breaking laws, and especially if you're trafficking children, trafficking drugs, raping people or children, worse. Adult people, bad. Children, worse. Murdering, then good God, of course I want you gone. And if it takes a little bit of what you guys are calling, sorry, not you, I know my audience mostly is already here with me, but whoever else might need to hear it, whatever you're calling aggressive, oh well. Oh well. If we shore up our borders, our boundaries, and therefore cartels can't make money off human suffering, good. And if you're part of the delusional who thinks that we shouldn't have borders because they're imaginary lines made up by humans and they don't exist, then holy shit. Holy shit, are you a useful idiot? Have fun destroying the world in your ignorance for a weird delusion that you think should exist because philosophically borders don't exist. Well, sorry, politically and legally they do, and they matter deeply. And that's why every country on earth protects its borders, reinforces its immigration policies, and deports people who don't belong. All the rest of it is weird, pulling on heartstrings, logical fallacies, and delusion. And have fun with that. So there, maybe I've just lost a whole lot more retards. I'd be glad of it. They're gone. Somebody, it still happens. I've been talking about this ever since the first show I ever did, which had like 7 views, up to like when I had my 20,000 views per episode for listens for the podcast and all of that. And, many tens of thousands of interactions in every single show I did all the way through. And all the way till now, I have the same exact perspective, which is if you're not excited to be here, I don't care. So people will come and comment and they'll be like, I thought you were, compassionate and just weren't an asshole. And I thought you were going to have my views on immigration and now you don't. So I'm gone. And I'm like, oh no. I'm supposed to change who I am to keep one absolute retard watching or listening to my show? Who are you that thinks that this is an effective form of protest to tell me about how you're leaving now? I told you from the beginning, bye. Don't need you, don't want you. It's freeing, actually. It's freeing to be one of the people who I don't actually think there's very many of us who will just say what we think and do what we want because it's what we think and what we want to do. I actually think if you look out at the broad variety of various hosts, or show hosts or personalities or whatever, someone today called me a celebrity. I was like, well, I mean, I guess thank you, but I'm really not. But I love your enthusiasm. God bless you. If you look out at the collection of people in general who are any type, any level, however big or small of like public figure, I don't think most of them are saying what they actually think and doing what they actually mean. I think even unintentionally, especially the people who get sort of the biggest, they end up being beholden to their identity that they've crafted, especially if they think that's what got them big. And they end up being beholden to what they know their audience wants from them and the clicks and the whatevers. And so I'm saying, I hope everybody's actually closer to where I'm at. And I hope I get even better at it than I think I already am, of being just authentic and not being beholden to what I think people want to hear or see. And not, having an identity that I built for myself that therefore prevents me from thinking critically or engaging with new ideas or changing what I thought was going on. And if you've been watching me long enough, you've seen me change my mind tons of times as I'm presented with new information. And I hope you do too. I hope everyone does. I think it's crazy to be the exact same person you always have been with never changing your mind or your perspective. I mean, we're supposed to grow. We're supposed to discover more, right? And as you discover more, it would be automatic that previous viewpoints and ideas and ideologies fell away, right? Values and principles, maybe not. Those might be eternal for you. Once you find like oh, I actually value this, that might never change again, right? Like I talk about it a lot. I say, if we had to really break it down to like, if you wanted to divide the world into two categories, my division is people who would fight and die to protect children and people who wouldn't and or would harm them. Right. And so I have this value, this principle. That's probably never going to change. It's probably right. When you have a value or a principle, it's probably forever. But you also might find you've misapplied it. So again, some people's value or their principle is, compassion, let's say, right? Or loving your neighbor, right? Or being kind to strangers. And so they take these, what they found are their values or their principles, and they misapply it. So especially, again, if we're going back to this illegal immigration question, people think they're being compassionate by stopping ICE from doing their job. And you might call that compassion. You have to be a bit blind and a bit delusional to do so, though. Especially when you look at the people who they are actually deporting. And the overwhelming majority of them are rapists, drug dealers, and murderers. They're violent offenders. They're people who ruin the lives of others. And if you think it's compassionate to fight to keep those people here, your idea of compassion is twisted. But what's actually happening is you don't even know that. The people who are arguing this don't even know that. As I've said millions of times, that we've shown plenty of examples of, they don't even know the difference between illegal and legal immigrant. They genuinely think that this is some sort of war on people who came here legally. And that's another crazy part of the propaganda war that ideally people with their, faculties about them are seeing through. They don't even see the difference between that, but they definitely then don't know that of the illegal immigrants that are here, the ones that are being targeted and removed are the violent offenders who ruin lives. They don't even know that. So they think they're being compassionate because they think they're being principled and having values. And what they're actually doing is being blind and being ruled by their emotions and not looking into anything. They haven't thought things through. There's very few of them that could have thought all of that through and still be on the side they're on. And the ones who are, well, they have a political game they're playing, and they're trying to get votes, and they're trying to redistrict, and they're trying to keep electoral votes, and they're trying to make sure they can win, the next presidential race. And that's the Democrat Party. And so I'm not a partisan person. I don't play Republican versus Democrat. I see the two wings of the bird are still the same bird. I get that, I get all of that. And I also can see reality and see what the Democrats are doing. And this is a Democrat game. Well, there's plenty we can criticize Republicans about. I'm not saying Republicans are better than Democrats in general. I'm saying in this issue, these people, these illegal immigrants are being used as pawns by Democrats, human pawns, human chattel, basically, to create their political gains, to create the political world that they want. So if you haven't thought about any of that, and all you think is that ICE is the Gestapo and Donald Trump hates anyone who's brown, which has no evidence to it, and that he's just going after people and locking them up and throwing them out no matter who they are, and a bunch of them are citizens, and all the lies you've been told by CNN, and all the others. Dude, I saw something from the dodo. The dodo is supposed to be like happy animal videos. And it was like, ICE is stealing families and tearing them apart, and their poor animals are caught in the crossfire. And all you stupid assholes. It's everything. It's all sorts of media. It's not just news media. It's all sorts of medias on this same agenda, whether they know it or not, whether they're useful idiots or not, whether they understand the role they're playing or not. And most of them don't. They don't understand it. They're just blindly beholden to their identities, to their perceived values and principles and worldviews without investigating or thinking through what's actually going on in the world. So lucky for us here in the winning circle, the winner's circle, we know better. And I will get off the soapbox and get into the stuff tonight. Please go to roguesoul.org to get all of my books, one-on-one sessions with me. If you want to join Dream Walking, we start this Sunday, the February 1st, whatever you're hearing or listening to this, you can click below you to check that out, or you can check out the previous episode. I talked mostly about other things. It's called, Beyond the Veil of Forgetting, but it's definitely intimately tied to the Dream Walking class that I'm teaching starting this February. We have a great group of people. I hope you join us. And otherwise, roguesoul.org has everything of mine there. Also, support me on Substack, rogueways.substack.com. Lots of good content, writing, philosophy, religion, history, alternative ideas, and more. That's all there for free. If you want to subscribe, you also get updated to things like the Dream Walking class and more. And so that's all there on Substack for you. And if you're a paid supporter there, you also get access to the channeled messages and the archive of them. There are timeless messages from the spiritual ancestors who channel through me, and you can read those there or in the books that are on the site, roguesoul.org and rogueways.substack.com. All right, let's get to it. Luigi Mangione they attempted to break him out of prison. He had someone come and claim to be an FBI agent. And so that person is being charged now, for perhaps obvious reasons. A Minnesota man, it says Mark Anderson, was charged with impersonating a federal agent in an attempt to break Luigi Mangione out of jail in Brooklyn. Claimed he had a judge's signed paperwork authorizing Mangione's release from the Metropolitan Detention Center. Mangione is awaiting trial for the murder of UHC CEO Brian Thompson. When questioned by prison personnel, Anderson presented a Minnesota driver's license. Why is it all Minnesota right now? Like, what is happening to you guys? Are you just like the center for mind control? So wild. Claimed to have weapons in his bag, which only contained a barbecue fork and a pizza cutter. I mean, I guess technically those are assault weapons if you assault someone with them. He had an assault pizza cutter. Mangione has a hearing scheduled for Friday where the death penalty may be discussed. So that's coming up just tomorrow if you're listening to this show as it releases. That's what's going on with Luigi Mangione. He's got such a huge group of people who are delusional enough to think he's amazing and hot. I'm like, okay, but like objectively, he's not hot. Sorry, not sorry. We have another seemingly faked hate crime. Who knows for sure? But this is Ilhan Omar, who had something sprayed on her. Some guy got up from the front row of some like town hall or whatever she was doing, talking about whatever, and probably immigration. And she got something sprayed on her. It looked like it was from a syringe, which is even weirder because it's like, I don't know, whatever. He had a syringe of something. He sprayed it at her. It was clear liquid, or maybe it had apple cider vinegar in it or something. It's what some people are saying it smelled like. He just stood up, sprayed her, and ran away. They kind of got him, and it all seemed very strange anyways. But then a lot of people had slowed down the video and seen her look directly at him, nod, and then look away. And right when she looks at him and nods, he gets up and sprays her. So just like every other hate crime that is ever allegedly committed in this country, this one I think is also a hoax. If that guy actually just did that for some reason, it's pretty weak sauce and like ineffective and pointless, except that she gets to pretend like she was attacked for being Somali. And so, the guy who does it also is like vaguely ethnic. So it's definitely, you can't say it's like white supremacy, but you can pretend that it's a hate crime. You can pretend it's because she's Somali, even though I don't know what he yelled when he did it, but it was pretty silly. She looks like she waits a second for him to get away and then kind of pretends like she's going to run after him and hit him. And then other people sort of grab him and wrestle him away. And now he's facing federal charges. So, even if it was a hoax, it's not going to be treated like a hoax for him. So I hope that he actually meant it, because he's going to be charged like he actually meant it. And if that little look she gives him and nod is some kind of a setup, is some kind of a she planned this in order to get attention sort of thing, which seems very possible. I think she's going to abandon him to the system. And I think that's what he should get, actually, for being dumb enough to trust a politician. So the Mossad director, David Barnea, and General Shlomi Binder both recently visited the U.S. to present a 1-2 punch for advice on how the U.S. military should handle Iran. So Israeli intelligence, Israeli higher ups trying to tell the U.S. what to do about Iran. We'll see if that actually works or not. I know a lot of people think that Trump just bends the knee to Israel, just does what they want, but we have so many examples of him not doing that. So even though there are lots of him doing that, there's a lot of him not doing that. And so you can't really fairly say that that's just what's going on ever. So it's always interesting to wonder, is this going to be one of the times that he seems to do their bidding, or is this going to be one of the times that he doesn't? Only time will tell. With Iran still undergoing their revolution, still under media blackout. So unclear exactly what is happening there. There was 4,000 ballots found with impossible timestamps, because thousands of them would go through at the exact same second, which is impossible for ballot machines to count that many ballots in the same second. Yes, they timestamped them down to the second, and that is how they caught one of these frauds. This is in Fulton County, Georgia, where an audit is ongoing and seems pretty intense. I know a lot of people are on this whole weird trip that I think we've been trained by movies and TV shows to expect weird things from the government, right? Like, people are like, what's happening with the Epstein files? And it's like, everything's happening and has been happening, and there's nothing else that you could possibly ask for them to do except get to the point where they're arresting criminals. And who knows if that's ever going to happen? That was never very likely, but they've released files. They continue releasing files. They're doing testimony and hearings in Congress and all sorts of depositions and stuff. And that's not good enough for anyone. In fact, just like the immigration thing, I don't think anyone knows. They pretend to care about these things and then stop paying attention, but bitch about them forever, because they think it's supposed to be like a movie. You're supposed to say, oh, that was wrong. Okay, look, we already got them. Look, they're in jail. It's already done. Just took a day. Like, that's not how real life goes. And I think it's the same with this voting stuff. People are like, well, he's been in office for a year and he hasn't even done anything about it. Like, well, you, no offense, dude, I never expect much from the government either, but you don't actually know what's happening behind the scenes until something happens that's reportable. And so this Fulton County, Georgia thing is happening. We've got a lot of action actually happening in various levels of the grand voter frauds that seemed to have happened at least in 2020, if not every election that we've ever had in our lifetimes. And Fulton County, Georgia seems to be the center of a lot of it. So they're finding tons of fraud there, and the evidence is mounting. And it's not likely to disappear this time, because the people who pulled it off aren't in power. And so there is seemingly something being done about it. Tulsi Gabbard's even on the scene. And when Tulsi Gabbard got involved, it elevated things even higher. There's a foreign element to this. And they're finding these foreign interference aspects that also implicate the CIA and the FBI, which everyone, I think, who pays attention to anything already expected. And so it's very complicated, just like the Epstein thing. It's multi-layered, it's beyond party, it transcends any other divisions we thought we knew about, except, perchance, the Satanists versus the Luciferians, which is a whole thing. And otherwise, it's at every level and every side, right? And so there's a lot to do. I'm not trying to give them more credit than they're due. I'm just saying, we might want to stop with the whole nothing's been done, blah, like just freak out session, and just calm down for a second, right? Imagine at least that something good could come of all of that, and actual people who actually stole your vote from you might be held accountable. That'd be great. What a win. I have this interesting, tweet I found as well, or whatever you're supposed to call it on X now, post of someone who's similar to me, but in some ways as as a young person, as a young ideologue, and then different from me because they went into the government to then counterbalance their mistake. But like me, this person was communist, essentially. This is J. Michael Waller. He says, professional organizers in the 1970s trained me as a teenager to do the stupid protest stuff like vandalism, destroying property, creating provocations to get stomped and clubbed by National Guardsmen for the news cameras to turn people against the authorities. We thought it was a fun adventure and enjoyed being part of an edgy struggle in what we had been led to believe was a righteous cause. In my case, it was anti-nuclear activism. So that's him. For me, it was, communism. And we've been looking at this stuff that's happening in Minneapolis, and we see Chinese billionaire funders, which we've talked about on previous episodes of the Winning Report. We've seen Soros type funders. We've seen the fraud that has gone through mostly Somali hands coming back to Democrat and NGO and Democrat related organizations in order to fund these exact types of protests and actions. So we've seen all of this funding and organization at high levels with governments involved and often foreign government actors involved. Just like he's saying, they want things like Mr. Pretty, who just got shot, right? And things like Renee Good, who was shot a week before that. They want things like that. And all the people who are on the ground, for the most part, don't. There, some of them are getting paid. Some of them are just there like this man was and like I was, out of what we felt like was the goodness of our heart, trying to do what we think is right. And we don't, they don't want anyone hurt or shot, right? But the people at the higher levels who are pulling the strings and organizing all this stuff, they want you to get shot. They're glad when you die. Exactly for what he says here in this tweet, where he's describing for the cameras, right? It was for the cameras. When we got beat by the National Guard, it was good for press because it made people compassionate towards our side and against the authorities, right? No matter how justified it is, stupid people will just see the violence and say, no, I don't want any of it, right? And so it's effective. So he's not wrong. He says, those who knew what they were doing never put themselves in danger. And they don't, do they? The people like Walls and the CCP billionaire and the Soroses and even the lieutenant governor who's now implicated in this resistance in Minnesota or whatever, they don't care, right? They never put themselves in danger. There's literally video of Walls like putting his head over his gated community and being like, yeah, you go fight. Like, why don't you come out and fight, you fat fuck? They don't care. They don't care if you go and fight for them. They'd love it, right? There's that quote where we're like, some of you will sacrifice your lives, and that's a risk I'm willing to take, right? I'm not willing to sacrifice my life, but I'm willing to sacrifice your lives. And that's what the Tim Wallses and the CCP billionaires are saying. He says they trained and set up the rest of us dupes to face the consequences, and that was about 80% of us. It's true. When I was doing this, the vast majority of us were just useful idiots, and there was a few who were, looking back now, I can see very clearly agents of some kind, whether it was of, a foreign nation, or our own government in some way, one of the two, but definitely a little too professional and nicely put together to be like the rest of us. So, 80%, probably more in my case. He said they used us to create outrage imagery and to use our shouts and chants to intimidate political figures and the public. They used us to provoke situations that would turn the public against the police and the National Guard. We were all just all-American high school kids, harmless, idealistic, innocent, but it was all engineered anger, psyop against the public and against ourselves. So eventually he says he realized the cause wasn't the cause, and then he goes and joins kind of counter-communist, this type of organization, work with the government, which you may or may not approve of, but at least listen to the story, right? That these are people like myself and him who have been through this situation before and then come out the other side realizing, oh, none of that was what I thought it was. I wasn't serving the cause I thought I was. And who was I serving, right? Not anything that benefits me or the people I love and know. These causes are beyond that, actually, and they're happy to use you for fodder. So take it into consideration that the vast majority of these people are useful idiots, and then some of them paid agitators and organizers who don't care as much as they care about the paycheck. And then beyond that, there's even shadowier organizational beings who don't care about you. You're just a tool for them. And otherwise, have fun being a useful idiot. So that was an interesting post, again, to read at least and to remember my own experience. And here's another post that's very interesting. It talks about how the census is going to determine our upcoming electoral college votes, as it always does. And if all of the illegal immigrants are allowed to stay, then Democrats definitely were going to take the day. And the things that they are already talking about doing would mean that Republicans never win again. They're planning it. They're open about it. They are not in any way hiding it. They are absolutely coming to destroy the system. They always talk about how the Republicans are doing that, and they want, and they're tyrants and they're this and that, and they're actually doing it. But if we actually deport all of the illegal immigrants that were brought in for this exact reason and none other, then it'll go the opposite direction. And the Democrats wouldn't have a chance, actually, of winning. And unlike them, the Republicans don't talk about stacking the system, then changing the system and making it impossible for Democrats to win. The reason Democrats wouldn't win is because the majority of the country is a Democrat. The majority of the country is actually Republican. It is a small amount of a small number of cities in our country that are overwhelmingly Democrat, and everyone else, everywhere else, is overwhelmingly not Democrat. They're independent to Republican or outside of the party thing and the voting thing altogether. So yeah, it's really interesting to think and see what they're actually doing with these illegal immigrants, why they're fighting so hard, why they're whipping everyone up into a frenzy, why the media is so dead set on you seeing this a certain way and in no other way, and how none of that serves you. It serves the Democrat Party. And if you are a Democrat and you see all of that and you understand what I just said, and you're still a Democrat, well, you're a bad person. If you want to intentionally cheat the majority of the country out of their right to representation and fair representation, and you want to cheat the system to make your side win because you're that selfish, you're a bad person. You can be a Democrat and a good person. It usually means you're ignorant. I was. Virginia's new Democrat governor is doing all kinds of things too. We talked about some of it last week, about making it illegal to recount ballots for any reason. There could be literally proven fraud and they would not recount it. That's what they did as soon as they got power in Virginia. They also made it so that it's harder to charge pedophiles and sex offenders, and their automatic sentencing is lower. What does that tell you about their values? Those are the first two things they did. Now they're trying to make it so you can't, audit their voter rolls, which is, again, you would only do if you have something to hide, right? Who's on your rolls that you want to keep there? Probably a lot of illegal immigrants or people who are dead or people who never existed. All of that is what they're doing. And now this on top of it, just to really show you how little they care about you. You could be a Democrat, like I said, but you almost have to be ignorant and stupid at this point to actually like the Democrat Party. In Virginia, they're also now raising taxes and taxing things that you have not been taxed on, that you do every day. Extra taxes on it. Not even sin taxes that are meant to dissuade you from things like drinking or smoking or, whatever. No. Things like ordering food, things like grooming your dog, things especially like services, which has been an ongoing attack on people for decades, of things that people used to do for each other, for a 20 spot here or there. Like, yeah, I'll watch your kid and then you can, bring me some groceries when you come back, or that kind of stuff, right? Things like that. Grooming your dog. Extra taxes on that, extra taxes on you. Tax increases in Virginia. We're going to make it so you can't vote, you can't trust the voting system, you can't charge pedophiles, and we're going to keep all our voter rolls private because there's so many people on them that aren't real or shouldn't be voting, and we're going to tax you more. All of that. Sound good? Great. That's Virginia now. Oh, and you know that fake picture we talked about where it is allegedly Alex Pretty getting shot by the people who did in fact shoot him, but it's an angle that they never had. It makes it look like an execution. It's a guy shooting down from above at his head as he seems to be trying to get away. And it's very dramatic looking, and he looks terrified and like he's like scared and trying to get away. And then this guy's just like angrily executing him. None of that happened. That picture's not real. You can tell because one of the agents in it doesn't have a head. It's pretty easy actually to look at it and say, why doesn't that guy have a head? Oh, this is AI. But that didn't stop a senator from using it on the floor of the Senate as evidence of ICE's brutality. Yes, for real, he actually used the AI picture of the headless ICE agent executing Alex Pretty as though it happened, as though it was real. You can't make it up. It gets harder and harder, I know, to tell what's AI and what's not. I'm even wondering if that prior video that showed up about Alex Pretty from like a week or something before, where he's shown kicking the taillights out of a car, is that AI, right? How did that conveniently surface? I don't know, maybe not. So far, it seems like a lot of people have vetted it and it's real. I'll defer to their judgment for now. But when it first came up, at least I was like, is it real? It's a little too convenient that it shows him being really violent again. I mean, he was violent enough. They're already not, gonna get away with defending themselves in the way they did, whether you like that or not. They didn't need any more, but that video is also pretty damning. It at least shows the pattern, right? Of attacking agents, of being violent, of resisting arrest, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, yeah, the headless agent AI photo made it to the Senate floor as actual evidence. Oh, the European Union has added Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to its terrorist list, classifying it as a terrorist organization. So the tides are definitely turning against Iran's regime. Again, if it leads to freedom for the people of Iran, I'm all for it. British police now have the ability to download data from your phone without your password or unlocking your phone. You could probably get around that if you have one of those phones that isn't Apple or Huawei or whatever the Chinese one is, or Samsung, right? If you have one of those block phones or any of those, phones that you're never going to find in a regular store, right? Those types of phones, they're probably not going to have access to those, but very few people have the patience to deal with a phone that isn't perfectly set up for them, in a perfect, easy way to use everything that they want to use. It's probably not people are going to have those. And so probably they're going to get the data of the phones of anyone they want. That was always to be expected, not that it is okay. But we've always known that the technocrats and the technocracy have given backdoor access, or have backdoor access to anything that they make for you. And so the police in the UK now have the ability to do that. They're the ones who will come to your door and arrest you for saying that, the immigrants are pooping on the street outside your house, or that, your local politician is fat, right? Or that you don't like the new school board, memo. I'm not exaggerating. These are all things people have been arrested for. They'll come to your door. They'll break it down if you don't answer it. They'll drag you away and they'll take all your electronics. And prior to this moment, you had to give them the password or access for them to actually find out what was on your device. Well, not anymore. So the erosions of liberty are continuing in Britain, soon to be the whole EU, I'm sure. So it has turned out that Trump has sent Tom Homan to Minnesota. He is there now. One of the other ICE agents left. They called him Gestapo and said that he was crazy or whatever, and he's just a guy, and there's nothing Gestapo about him. Continuing their violent rhetoric. So he's back in California. They're saying they might let him retire even. For some reason, the left thinks that's a victory. I mean, let them have it if that's what they think. I'm pretty sure when you let a guy retire that it's not a loss to him. Now you've got Tom Homan in your state. So is that a victory? Is that the victory you wanted? That guy doesn't mess around. Like him or not, he is serious, and he has been doing his job for a long time. In fact, he was given a Medal of Honor by Obama for deporting people, for deporting more people than we've deported under Trump. You can't make these things up. They hate Tom Homan and they loved him just a few years ago. Loved him enough to give him a medal for deporting people, for doing exactly what they're doing now. That's why I told you nothing has changed except the media view of it. And who are they serving? Not you, the CCP, the foreign agents, and the Satanists. So anyways, Tom Homan is there now. And he's saying, yeah, we're pulling out some ICE agents. And again, the leftists are like, win, we won, we're winning. And let them think so. I'm glad if that makes them happy and they finally like go take care of themselves instead of like spewing all of their vitriolic random chaos onto the streets. That's great. But I don't think it's the win they thought it was. The only reason there would be less ICE agents that they're pulling out is because the police there are finally able to do their job because they were told not to this whole time. Yes, ICE agents shouldn't be interacting with regular citizens, but because the police were being held back by the politicians in these sanctuary cities for holding, they're supposed to hold people back. They're supposed to do crowd control. They're supposed to arrest people who are getting in the way. And they haven't been allowed to. So what they're saying is, if you let us into the jails to get the people you've already locked up who are illegal, and if you actually start doing your job as police, yeah, we're happy to take plenty of ICE agents out because we won't need them anymore. We're still going to be doing deportations here. Nothing has changed. It's just who's enforcing it. So there you go. You got it, right? They can take it as a win if they want. Let them save face or whatever. It's fine. But I don't think it's the win they thought it was. Trump has also announced a first ever Assistant Attorney General for National Fraud Enforcement. Again, a lot of people are like, nothing's being done. Well, there have actually already been plenty of arrests, plenty of investigations are started. All kinds of new deportations were initiated by all the fraud in Minnesota and beyond, I'll say. That's just one place. But now we have a whole role. And again, you can think that's just sort of fanfare, like, to placate you. But things are actually being done that I have been talking about on the Winning Report every week and that are good. And so cool. We may even get more action on that front. It'd be great for everybody if less of our taxes went to fraud and more of it went to taking care of people who are already here and already citizens and already need that money and that support. That'd be great. So I will see, right? New York Democrats have this crazy new plan to fine fossil fuel companies $75 billion for carbon emissions that date back to the year 2000. They want to fine fossil fuel companies, erroneously named misnomer fossil fuels, but we all know that here. It's abiotic oil. It's part of the living system of the earth. It's continuously regenerated. But anyways, those companies, gas and fuel companies, $75 billion, going back 25 years, they're backdating a fine they just made up today. And if they get away with it, so you might think, yeah, I want them to be fined. I love electric vehicles and I love the greenwashing and I'm in that delusion and yay. But now you're also setting a precedent that they can make up a fine and then go back into history and fine you for things that weren't finable at the time. There seems to be no chance that this is allowed to stand. It seems like it's highly illegal. There's no precedent for this. And so ideally this gets shot down. But if it doesn't, whether you like fossil fuel companies or not, that's a crazy precedent to set. So that's what they're doing in New York, dude. Democrats are crazier than anybody. I don't know what's wrong with them, but it's insane. I do actually know what's wrong with them. They're all emotionally stunted, literally all of them. You can't be a Democrat and be emotionally well. Science proves it, by the way, and has over and over again for decades and decades, so calm down. Xi Jinping launched a massive killing spree in China. So China's going through a bit of internal struggle right now, and I couldn't be happier because I'm hoping that it leads to the people being able to free themselves from the Communist Chinese Party and have actual freedom there. That would be amazing. Like the world, that timeline would be the best timeline to be on. Dear God, make it happen. Everybody pray for it. Hope that it happens. Xi Jinping, at least, has now killed one of the last remaining higher up people who had any chance of sort of potentially taking over or potentially, you know, having a coup or something, or at least having like a balance of power, not necessarily against Xi Jinping, but potentially not always in exact alignment with Xi Jinping. So they have the illusion of this lack of dictatorship there, right? By having all of these other higher ups besides Xi Jinping. Well, he just kills them all over time. And he just killed another. So some people have been keeping track, and I think there was 7 of them, and now 5 of them are dead. The 5th just got killed, and if I'm wrong, it's the 6th. There's either like 1 or 2 other people who are sort of higher up in the party, and that's it. That's all that's left. And so as he did this, as he had him killed, and you know, I'm sure you're not supposed to just say that he had him killed, but it's pretty obvious who would have him killed. So, you know, that's how it is. But anybody who was out and in any way seemingly might be or was known to have been a supporter of the man he just killed is being killed too. So it's just a slaughter happening in China. And in Tiananmen Square, there's a bunch of people being publicly executed who were supporters of this man who was killed. So it's pretty sudden. It's a big shakeup. And there's already a lot of cracks forming through Chinese society. And a lot of people are aiming to rise up, and especially as things get more tense externally with China, you know, trying to get the trade deal with Canada, trying to take back Venezuela, you know, they're losing a lot of grounds that they had sort of gotten in the world, on the world stage. And as they're sort of trying to fight these many fronts at once, Taiwan, all of it, the canal, Panama Canal, all of it, they're also now having this internal stress. So it could be coming up here that we might be able to see some freedom restored and the fall of the Chinese Communist Party in China. And that'd be just the most fantastic thing. So I like it. I know not everyone's interested in China, but you know me, I am. All right. We also have back to Minnesota that Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey apologizes, not to the regular citizens of Minnesota who've been defrauded by all this illegal immigration and all the fraud schemes, especially of the Somali community, not to them, not to the people on the streets, not to the people who got themselves killed for him and Tim Walz. No, he apologizes to the Somali community. He says, "I'm sorry. I never thought in a million years would I imagine that this kind of thing could happen in America, that we'd have this broad invasion of federal agents. I'm sorry to you and your community." What? Like, what? Well, you're sorry to some illegal immigrants and some that might be legal, but then went about defrauding the U.S. to the tune of billions of dollars? You're sorry to them? Because he knows if things go his way and they don't deport all these people and they don't do anything about the massive fraud, that is a voting base he needs in order to succeed. And that's why he's doing that. He's not some heartful guy who genuinely just feels like the Somalis have got a bad rap, right? No, he wants their votes. So this is an interesting new level of fraud too. I don't know that it's connected in any way to illegal immigration or any sorts of organizations that are intentionally organizing this in order to get lots of money, right? Who knows? It's just now sort of coming out that there's these ghost students, and that especially community colleges have as many as a third of their enrollments are ghost students. They're not real people. They apply to government loans, they get their money, and they never pay their tuition, and they never show up to class, and they just have that money now. And so it's really interesting. And I go back to the whole Doge thing. I know it's another thing where people are like, well, what happened to all of that? What's happening to all of that? I know there's a lot of like smoke and mirrors and things, but I see things like this and the fraud in Minnesota and all of this coming out. And it makes me wonder if that's not all Doge stuff that was found and then sort of just put, we got to get to this one by one. We can't just like attack everything at once. So now we have ghost students, and I'm sure we've had them for a while. And again, it'll be fascinating to find out, is that money, just like the Somali fraud, going back to specific organizations and supporting specific political organizations and whatnot? Right? Is it? Or is it totally random? Is it just that people realized they could do it and so it became a trend? I could see either, so it'll be interesting to see. Venezuela's getting back one of the tankers that the US seized from it. Interesting. Maybe they got the gas from it and they're giving it back. I don't know for sure, but they're giving it back. All right. And here we have the deadly bat-borne virus that's scaring the world as pandemic fears in Asia come back. COVID-era border controls are implied again, and a deadly virus outbreak has occurred. I mean, by outbreak, they mean 110 people are quarantined, and none of them have been proven to have any illness, and they just shut down borders anyway. And they're just pretending they know it's from a bat just because I think that worked last time. So they're hoping it works again. They're calling it the Nipah virus. They're talking about it in Thailand. It seems like a pretty big non-issue. So I thought I'd mention it, but I don't think we need to worry. Multiple polls show the majority of Americans want all illegals deported. Yes, literally the majority of Americans, not just the people who voted and are happy that Trump's in office and wanted him to be doing this, and now he is, but even people who didn't vote for Trump. In fact, in all categories, voters and non-voters, every party, the majority of people want illegal immigrants deported. It is so not a divisive issue. It's insane, actually. Every poll, partisan and not, every organization, college ones, reporters and general news organizations, all of them show the same thing. That's so silly. Oh, some Chinese general has said that the reason the US wants to control Greenland is to destabilize the world. I don't actually think that's why, but if you want to scare everyone into joining you in your anti-US angst, then you should say something like that, shouldn't you? Google DeepMind has launched a new AI tool called Alpha Genome, which can create entirely new designer DNA in humans. Oh, what could go wrong? What a great use of technology and AI. Let's just make weird chimera people full of all kinds of horrors. That sounds great. You absolute maniacs. Oh, we'll see what that's going to do. CRISPR's been bad enough. Now you've got AI genome design for humans. Oh, God. All right. An additional destroyer was sent to Iran. So I think we have 2 now. Destroyers sent towards Iran. Not necessarily like to Iran, right? But to the region to sort of show Iran like, hey, we're not messing around. Whether you like that or not, again, I'm hoping it brings more freedom to the people of Iran. We talked about that. Home Depot is going to cut 800 corporate jobs and require employees to return to the office 5 days a week. This is an ongoing trend. There's someone else, we'll get to it. I think it was Google, actually. There's a lot of corporate job cutting. And so they were just talking about this at the WEF in Davos. And we talked about it last week on the Winning Report that they're saying, hey, AI is going to cut white collar jobs too. And it sounds horrible, but that's actually like a call to action for them, because they don't care if they're blue collar jobs. They don't care about you and I, right? But if their jobs start to get threatened, they're like, oh, now we have to figure out what we're going to do about AI. So, it might end up being a nice prod into like, how are we going to organize society now, perhaps differently than we ever have before, when a lot of the work might be able to be automated more and more over time. And really, there might be very little work for humans to do. Especially again over time. So maybe, right? But in the meantime, Home Depot and other places are laying off corporate level jobs, high level white collar jobs. So lots of them. So we're going to have more of that. People are upset because the head of U.S. Cyber Defense Agency, CISA, Madhu Gotumakala, uploaded sensitive contracting documents into a public version of ChatGPT, triggering a DHS security review. Hopefully it was just an accident. And otherwise, I hope he gets outed and taken out of his role. Talked about that. The woman who was talking, you may have seen this video of this girl who claims that ICE agents like beat her and hit her head really hard and called her the N-word over and over again. She had like a band-aid on her head, and I guess she was just talking about bananas and rice the whole time. I don't know why. I didn't really understand it. I don't know if she, was still suffering from head injury. It seemed like she didn't actually have an injury, and she was making the whole thing up like most hate crimes are. And so whatever, bananas and rice, I don't really get it. I have no idea why she kept talking about bananas and rice. I was like, is this like a sleeper cell activation phrase? Like, why is this girl talking about bananas and rice so much? I've never heard of that combination of words in my life. But anyway, she has been arrested for assaulting an officer. So who's the assaulter? I'm sure she'll claim that he called her the N-word too. Oh, we already talked about that. Investigation in the Fulton County, Georgia elections. The supposed mega guy who sprayed Ilhan Omar turned out to be a leftist. Surprise! Nobody's surprised except people who don't pay attention. Got all that. The people who were involved in the shooting of Alex Pretty have been put on administrative leave. That doesn't mean anything. That's just what happens anytime you're involved in something that they're investigating. So it literally means nothing. They're just very normal to be put on leave when you're being investigated, whether it's presumed that you were all completely in the right or not, right? There's no presumption of innocence or guilt in that. Nicki Minaj was for some reason on stage with Trump and said that she's the biggest #1 fan of Trump. Cool. I know people hate that. I don't really know. I don't care. I don't really know her or anything about her. She's welcome to like whoever she wants. UPS says it's cutting 30,000 jobs of 2026 because it expects to deliver fewer packages for Amazon. So that's a lot of jobs. I mean, are they going to all go to the USPS, or who's going to be delivering them? I'm guessing someone. Maybe they'll be able to get to their jobs somewhere else. Amazon's also axing 16,000 corporate jobs in an operation called Project Dawn. Not creepy at all, Amazon. Not creepy at all. The dawn of what, you might ask? AI and roboticization. Project Dawn is pushing AI and efficiency, and they'll lay off 16,000. So just like Home Depot, just like UPS, we're already seeing these massive layoffs. We've already seen a ton of them. There's a ton more coming. Here it is. We're on the verge. Project Dawn has arrived. And Trump says that a massive errata. Oh, we already talked about that. Heading to Iran. Oh, former Dominion executive Eric Coomer admitted to working with foreign agents in order to get them access to our voting machines. Again, you may think nothing's happening, but he was just deposed, 2 days ago. This is all in connection with the investigation on the 2020 election. The Fulton County, Georgia stuff also found foreign connections. The whole thing with Maduro in Venezuela was about the foreign connections to our voting. So here we are. It's continuing, and that is a good thing for all of us. In Eugene, Oregon, far-left extremists are surrounding federal buildings and attacking them in in solidarity with the Minneapolis protesters, the anti-ICE. Nothing happened there. They're just doing it. So that's Oregon for you. Not surprising. If you didn't see this is, super fascinating. This is Alex Pretty before and after his glow up, his AI glow up, his Photoshop glow up that they gave him. They literally made his jaw a little wider, his chin way shorter, his eyes a little kind of bigger and softer. His nose was straighter and smaller. His ears were I can't actually tell it's just a color thing or what, but they definitely look better in his glow up. His hair is pretty similar, but his skin tone was also made tan instead of pasty pale white. So very, very interesting choices, leading me to say, man, maybe I should go commit suicide by ICE so that I see what the media does with my face when I'm dead, right? Make me really beautiful. I would love that. I am very beautiful. I'm just saying, right? So yeah, go Alex, get it, man. If you can get the ladies to love you even in death, so be it. Oh. Tim Walls is still harping on the Anne Frank thing, comparing the ICE to Gestapo and all of that. He says, we've got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And Larry Elder says, 50% of Border Patrol agents are Hispanic, as are at least 20% of ICE agents. What percentage, Governor, of the Nazis, brown shirts, and stormtroopers were Jewish? Oh, yeah. How can you even compare the two? It's such a stupid comparison. You have to be unintelligent to make it. People on the ICE Watch subreddit on Reddit, of course, are encouraging one another to shoot federal agents. We talked last week about the government representative who seemed to be telling people to shoot ICE agents. There's plenty of TikTok videos of people saying you could just kill ICE agents, or we should kill ICE agents, or it's time to kill ICE agents. That's what they're saying. I'm just quoting them. And so it's a popular theme on the left to encourage people to kill ICE agents, which who are the people in the wrong here? The people who just want to go randomly shooting random people? I would say so. Yeah. If you're thinking that shooting agents just because they're agents is somehow good, you definitely have huge issues to deal with as a human. Luckily, a Virginia judge had ruled that the amendment to their state constitution that allowed them to redraw the state's congressional maps is illegal. So that constitutional amendment was cast out. You gotta love it. I'm sure they didn't expect a judge to do that. A lot of these activist judges are doing anything, even if it's not legal, in order to support the sort of Democrat radical cause. And so proud of that judge for doing what's actually right and legal instead of that. So that's cool. We talked about that. I love this. This is the year of the horse coming up, as you know, the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year, as it's also known, is coming up. We have that coming up, and then we'll have the spring equinox, which is the last and final kind of new year of the new year. We have the Gregorian New Year, and then we've got the Chinese New Year, and then we've got the Lunar New Year, and then we've got the equinox New Year. And so since it's the year of the horse, once we get to the Chinese New Year this year, they have all of these year of the horse, stuffies and things that they make in China for people and around Asia too. And they have these horses whose smiles got sewn on upside down. Their mouth and nose part got sewn on upside down. And so they have these frowning horses, and they're so cute. Look at them. I love it. It's an accident that I love. A lot of people love them. They're actually a hit. I think people want the frowning horse more than they want the smiling horse. And it's a fun mistake. So coming up, Year of the Horse. TikTok is investigating why many users have been unable to send the word Epstein in direct messages, and anti-ICE videos are being deboosted just days after the TikTok sale are finalized. Oh, I wonder, is it because the Chinese Communist Party no longer has full control over what happens on TikTok? Probably, because they were definitely boosting the anti-ICE messages. So I'm not for all of this algorithmic control, but maybe it's at least a little more acceptable when it's to balance out the algorithmic control that have been pushing something else for quite some time now. Well, ideally, we can all just say what we want, what we mean, and do it in accordance with the actual proportions of people who think it, instead of all of this false pushing of ideas via algorithms. We already talked about that. I guess we had Holocaust Remembrance Day this week. I do remember trying to post something that said hollow hoax, and that wasn't allowed. It's hate speech, so I'm not allowed to talk about how bodies can't burn and other things. Math, just simple math calculations can lead you to the truth. If you want, you can just do math. You don't even have to read anything else. You don't have to look at any analysis. You don't have to wonder what's true or not. You can just do math. So happy Holocaust Remembrance Day. ICE protesters were now turning on Democrats. Once it was announced that Walz was going to like kind of let ICE in and let them into the prisons and kind of coordinate with them more, then they started trying to attack the Democrats themselves. Of course, you can't create a demon and then not expect it to come back at you. Like, didn't you learn anything from Frankenstein's monster? The Trump effect. Minnesota police unleashed, charging straight at the leftist rioters, so they no longer just have free reign to attack ICE agents in their cars to get in the way. The police are actually doing their job. I expect things to get a lot quieter there because of that. And it's not stopping the politicians who are no longer in power from trying to get people to continue to rise up, including Biden, who called for all of America to stand up and speak out against ICE, against Trump, and so did their, Black Jesus Obama. He did too. I think Clinton did. I think they got as many people as they could. They're like, it's going to start to die down. We got to keep this going. So I don't think it's going to go much longer. Google had agreed to fork over $68 million to settle claims that its assistant was secretly recording your conversations without the Hey Google feature. Oh, wow, my phone just turned on. I forgot I even had that because I've never used it. It's like, what? What do you need? I need you to stop listening to me, phone. I just assume my phone's always listening. I should get some of this money, right? But who knows? We'll see. Yeah, we should all assume that we're being leased, not because we're okay with it or it's right, but because it's true. Oh, they had to draw. In Reddit and in various publications, they have drawn an image of what's supposed to be Alex Pretty, but is actually a much more handsome individual, valiantly protecting a woman by just encasing her in his arms and looking back at the ICE agents who are coming at him with guns and pepper spray, and they're just cowering and scared. They had to draw that because it's not real, and nothing like that happened. And in the entire fracas of videos from multiple angles, you couldn't have gotten one that even remotely looked like he was scared or trying to get away or trying to protect anyone, even though I admit he got in there because allegedly he thought that was a way to protect a woman. That's obvious, but his stance when he does it isn't protective. It is in the face of the agents. So again, it's protective, but not in the way they're trying to make it look in this image, right? So you can't actually find an image like that. So they had to draw it, and they're now using this drawing instead of reality. Yeah. Oh, we also have this penguin that's taking the world by storm. This penguin was being watched for some documentary or another. He doesn't join the group that's, I think, going fishing or something by the waterside. He doesn't join the group that's heading back to the nesting grounds. And instead, he seems to turn to like a very distant mountain and just kind of go off on his own. And he just goes and goes and goes. And people, I think, love it. I think most people love it. I think a few people hate it. It's also causing discussions about, because people react to it and are like, yeah, be the penguin and go to the mountain and don't care about who goes or doesn't go with you. Like, do what you gotta do, which I think is a great message, by the way. It's causing people to talk about too, like our rugged individualism and how destructive it is, and how this is toxic masculinity to like this penguin and to root for him. And like, it's pretty fascinating. I kind of love the subconscious that it's bringing out into the light. And so I'm kind of in love with this penguin too, but perhaps for a different reason than a lot of people. I'm in love with it because of the view it gives us into our collective consciousness and our culture. So really, really cool, this penguin. I think it's mostly now becoming a right-wing thing, is what it is, but we'll see. Oh, all right. We have more people talking about the census, the 2030 census, and the electoral college votes, and that's what this whole immigration thing is about. It's very true. Spain is approving a plan to grant legal status to 500,000 migrants, passing the plan via royal decree, circumventing the need for a vote in parliament. Yeah, great. Again, it's not, it is so clear to see the pattern now. Every westernized state, every country is getting these influxes of immigrants. And if they can, they're going to just shove them in some other way, because most people don't want that, actually. So if people have any control or say over it, it doesn't happen. And so they do it in other ways, just like we saw Biden do during his administration, ushering in as many people as they could in any way they could. It's happening in Spain, all over Europe too. We have this ongoing, fun time play in the form of the atomic scientists' doomsday clock. They put it forward 4 seconds. And so we're 85 seconds to midnight now. And I'm like, at this point, are you trying to make it happen? This clock's supposedly about nuclear Armageddon. Like, will you just, it's just for fun now? You're just like trying to scare people still? Like, I hope this holds no sway over anyone. It's pretty silly. Have fun though. Have fun with your fun time thing. Minnesota's chief federal judge ordered acting ICE directors to appear in court to explain why detainees have been denied due process. I will explain to you yet again that there is no due process for illegal immigrants, except the process that is identifying them as illegal and then deporting them. Thanks for listening. The EU is in a big agreement with India. It's a big trade agreement that also includes massive amounts of immigration. So again, now a bunch of Indians are going to come into the EU, be ushered in by the EU. And that is also going to be done whether people like it or not. Okay. Oh, it's been interesting too to see the sort of anti-ICE people infiltrating the Signal chats, the Telegram chats, the Reddit threads, like all the social medias, all the places you can get, and not just kind of spying and getting info. That's been one thing that we've seen come out of a lot of people, like Cam Higbee is the biggest one seemingly, that infiltrated the Signal and Telegram chats and kind of flooded all of this information out into the open, but also they're just giving them bad information. They're just like, oh, we saw ICE over here. And they're just like flooding it with bad information. So lots of counter anti-ICE activities going on. Pretty interesting. Former White House lawyer said that female and minority pilots caused 66% of pilot error crashes since 2000, despite being less than 10% of the workforce. 10% of the workforce, but 66% of the errors leading to crashes. Leading you to consider that perhaps women shouldn't be pilots. Just maybe. They have poor spatial relation. It's not always poor, but it's not as good as men's. So however you're going to measure things, you might put a label on it other than poor, but it's not as good as men. So wouldn't you want a male pilot to be ferrying you about in three-dimensional space? I don't know. I would. Okay. Oh, by the way, speaking of China, CCP infiltration and our voting and everything in our politics, and also funding these far left extremist groups and these anti-ICE riots and all the like, everything like that. Well, Tim Walz went to China 30 times and learned how to run Marxist insurgency from the CCP. That's why everything that's happening there looks like a Marxist revolution, because it is. Talk about traitors. Talk about traitors. The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the Trump administration, allowing ICE agents to arrest, detain, pepper spray, and retaliate against violent anti-ICE rioters. Remember, the reason why that happened is because they wouldn't let the police do their jobs, and they should have been the ones doing that. But since they weren't, ICE had to do it for themselves. So this judge said, yes, of course, if there isn't going to be the normal way we do things and normal police activity and support, then ICE has to be able to defend itself. And so now they have that. They didn't have it before, you guys, and now they do. So all these people who are pretending like they're so anti-tyranny and anti-government and whatever, you created this situation where ICE now has more power than it's ever had before. You did that. So stupid. It's all so stupid. China hacked the mobile phones of senior British officials in Downing Street for 3 years. I'm sure it was longer than 3 years, but good for you for finally figuring it out. I've been talking about it for more than 3 years. Of course, it's been happening for more than 3 years. Why is everyone so stupid? I don't know. God. Okay. Threatening to assault, murder, or interfere with a federal agent is a felony, and they have now been arresting the people who have said it's okay to shoot ICE, or we have to go kill ICE, or we have to go do this, or are doxing people and threatening harm. All of them, they are now getting arrested. Thank goodness. Yes, you're not actually allowed to threaten violence against people, even if you really don't like what they're doing. The new Black Panther Party. Just remember that last week I said to you, who is this? Who is this fake Black Panther Party? That's clearly not real. That's part of the op. They really want Black people to get involved in this. And so far, in general, the African American community is not getting involved in this. Because a lot of them are like, no, you all came here and you're like taking our resources. And also because a lot of them are like, why would I want illegal immigrants to be here? Like, what does that have to do with me? And so they're just not. It's just not the George Floyd thing like they wanted it to be. It's not, the people getting shot are white. That doesn't tend to just like electrify the Black community, So they sent these fake Black Panthers. I told you. I said they're fake. That's not really real. And then the real Black Panther Party came out and said, who are you? Stop using our name. We don't support what you're doing. Take our badges and our flags down. And so this fake Black Panther Party had to come out and make a video and say, we're not the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers told us to stop or whatever. And they're stopping. So I fucking told you so. There's a vindication. God. People will be like, how did you know? I'm like, because if you pay attention for long enough, everything becomes obvious. Let's just add a caveat. If you pay attention from a place in which you are relatively, at least, if not very, emotionally and mentally well, everything becomes obvious. If you are deeply disturbed or emotionally disturbed, or mentally unwell, then no amount of paying attention will help you. But otherwise, it's actually super, super easy to see what's happening. Okay. Talked about that. Talked about that. Talked about the penguin. I love the penguin. Okay. Israeli diaspora minister Amichai Chikli declares war against political correctness, stating that the previous belief of aggressively imposing political correctness to curb anti-Semitism has failed. Political correctness and the fight against anti-Semitism cannot coexist, he says. Well, who is this man that speaks the truth? An Israeli higher up that speaks the truth. Good for him. He's right. It is pointless to try to tell people how to speak and pretend that that changes whether or not they hate you. It's a stupid idea. Yeah, I talked about that. AI is costing more jobs than it's creating. Well, duh. Like, who thought it would be otherwise? Was that like a surprise to some people? Oh, goodness gracious, the world, I tell you what. What have we got here? This is Kevin Bass on Twitter saying, I'm horrified. I cannot believe it. I analyzed public databases and media reporting on violent confrontations with ICE over the past year. Just 9 counties accounted for 2/3 of violent confrontations with ICE. This is twice All violent confrontations in the remaining 3,134 counties combined. Just 9 are 2/3 of the violence. A violent confrontation in these 9 counties was 590 times more likely than any of the other 3,134 counties. He says, I plotted these 9 counties and I found that all 9 counties are sanctuary jurisdictions run by Democrat politicians that resist immigration law enforcement. Yeah, if you want to know why ICE is having violent interactions with people, it is purely political Democrat posturing. And they're encouraging people to do it, and they're setting up the situations in which it's likely to occur. Not an accident. It seems like NATO Chief Rutte has said, if any of us feel like we can defend ourselves without the U.S., keep dreaming. So it looks like NATO's come into their senses. The final hostages from Palestine, from Gaza, were returned to Israel. So that seems good to people. I don't know. I guess they're saying now, therefore, there's peace in the Middle East. I don't know how you figure that, but sure. You want to call it that? That's cool. There is a breakdown here for, I guess, people were asking why Minnesota patriots weren't counter-protesting the ICE protesters. And so someone just breaks it down like, we've already seen how that goes. In the Democrat-run areas, like you're going to be prosecuted and they're not. You're going to be held to a higher standard and they're not. So if there's any kind of altercation, like you're going to be on the losing side of it. And law enforcement isn't there to protect people. And so they're not going to just go out and do it themselves. I think that didn't really need to be said, but I guess some people needed it to be said. So they're just letting it run its course, as you probably should. We also have someone addressing, this propaganda, essentially, that ICE is a paramilitary fascist death squad. And so this person says, so the brilliant theory here is that ICE is some paramilitary fascist death squad with an amazing kill count of 2. And not even the actual illegals, just 2 random idiots with boomer cape shit fantasies that think fighting with cops is a good way to pass the time. Yeah, that's what they're going with. This is a fascist takeover of a paramilitary group that is like the Nazis and isn't even actually harming or killing the people who they say that they're against, but has killed just two people. I know, it's too many, whatever, but it's still a very good point. Oh, they show also a facility where ICE has been bringing these children when they do have children. And let's clarify here that the only time ICE is interacting with children is when the parents abandon the child and there's no one then to take care of them, which is the case in the most recent little kid with the blue hat that everybody saw recently. And in the other case, they're deporting the children with the parents because the parents chose for that to happen. They get a choice. They can send the kids to someone else here, a cousin, an aunt, whatever, anybody, and they can take legal control of the children, or they can take them with them as they get deported. And so when they do that, or when a child is abandoned by their parents, perhaps, then they might end up in these places where the leftists are saying, like, they're just holding kids and families there. But then they show these facilities and it's like pretty nice. There's school going on, there's playing going on, there's outdoor activities, there's sports. It's not even like militaristic at all. They're just kind of like hanging out and doing whatever they want, it looks like, as opposed to under Obama when they were literally shoved into little cages. That was okay with everybody because Obama did it because he's Black Jesus. But Trump gives them like actual nice place to be while they're being sorted out and people lose their freaking minds. It's amazing. So if you haven't seen those facilities, you should check them out. There is a protest, of course, going on for some of the families in some of those facilities, which is insane. You can come to this country illegally and then be put up in this nice ass place while they figure out where to send you, and you could protest that. Go try doing that in another country and see where they put you. I bet it's not nice. Oofda. Mark Carney has turned his tail and run away under the threats from Trump and the US and will not now pursue the free trade deal with China, which is good for all of us. Gold reached $5,000 for the first time in history. Gold, which should actually be much higher than that, but still good for people who invested in gold. Tim Walz deployed the National Guard to give out food and drink to support the group of far-left open border radicals instead of deploying them to stop them from interfering with ICE. So it's just another way that he aided and abetted this insurrection. I already told you Obama also called on everyone to resist ICE. We have a guy, Alex Honnold, who scaled the 1,667 feet Taipei 101 tower in Taiwan. No ropes, no scaffolding. He reached the 509-meter summit in approximately 90 minutes. I think it was live streamed on Netflix. People seemed excited about it. Pretty crazy. I would never do it. I watched a tiny bit of it and was like, yep, that guy's crazy. And then I did something else, but I'm sure it was cool. And whatever. Most of the stuff we've already talked about. Oops. Talked about that. Just like Alex Pretty's picture. It's so silly. Oh, and yeah, I don't know if we really went into detail about Alex Pretty last week or not, but I think we did. There's new videos and new angles, and you can take your pick on what you think happened. An ICE agent's finger was bit off. Maybe we didn't talk about Alex Pretty specifically last week, because I have a lot of stuff in here about what actually happened. It's also interesting. His parents, had come out and said, we told him to stop. Basically, we told him to stop doing this. We told him not to do anything stupid. So they at least had some idea that he was going to do something stupid. Again, if that previous video that shows him kicking the ICE agent's lights out on the car or whatever is any indication, then he was probably out every day inserting himself into these actions and being perhaps somewhat violent in many altercations, at least those two. He was also supposedly a Veterans Affairs nurse, a VA nurse, but he also, other indications said that he had left that position basically in order to go protest every day. So I don't know. I couldn't really confirm that, but a lot of people are saying it. So it might be true that he wasn't actually a nurse anymore. And if he was, a lot of nurses who are that far left and that extremist have come out many times in many ways saying, like, basically, let's not provide care to anyone who's Republican or, right of radical leftist and maybe even harm them, right? Injecting certain things in them. And people are starting to lose their licenses over these videos they're making, threatening that type of behavior. I don't know that he was like that or not. It's just based on his radical leftism. It's potentially possible that if someone in his care was ICE or was ICE adjacent or was like Republican adjacent, that maybe he wouldn't treat them well. He seemed pretty vitriolic. So I don't know. It's just a trend that worries me, that a lot of nurses are hateful psychopaths. And so I don't know if he was one or not. Let's talk about it otherwise, because I think this was all since the last winning report that this happened. So Alex Pretty, of course, was inserting himself into an ICE action. He had been for many, many, many minutes before the scene that everyone by now has seen of him getting shot, perhaps as many as 10 times, as he very, very extremely resisted arrest. I've actually never seen someone resist so hard. I'm not even exaggerating. If you watch, like, he's like a wrestler. Like, he's been practicing. Like, he's like getting him off his back and he's moving and like his arms and legs are flailing. He's up, he's down, he's up, he's down. Like, it was pretty intense, actually. So anyone who's saying he wasn't resisting arrest, I'm not sure what they're looking at. And And I come back to this every time when something like this happens, Renee Good too, and other things too, where I'm looking at it and even though a lot of people don't think so, I'm rather objective because I don't actually have like a deep love and adoration and commitment to ICE or deportations, and I definitely don't to the left. I'm at least pro deporting illegal immigrants, so you might think there's a bias there. But essentially, I'm like, I don't really care who's in the wrong. I'm genuinely curious as to what happened, right? And when I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, yeah, it's obvious he's resisting arrest. There's people who literally will argue that he wasn't. And I'm like, I'm confused at this point what you are seeing, or what would you call resisting arrest if it's not that? If it isn't Alex Pretty being a wrestling superstar as police are telling him and trying to basically arrest him and confine him and put him in cuffs and detain him, and you're actively like throwing them off of you and trying to wrestle out from under them and get away, what would you call resisting arrest? You know, and yes, he had a gun, and yes, he had 2 extra magazines, and no, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's this weird line that goes on where people are like, oh, the 2A people are suddenly against guns and saying he deserved it because he had a gun. And I'm like, if you're dumb enough to think that's what anyone's saying, that's sad, because no one's saying that. And all anyone's saying is the truth, which every 2A person would have said the exact same thing, even the day before, a week before, a month before, years before Alex Pretty happened, which is that if you have a gun on you and you're interacting with the police and you're doing anything other than holding your hands up, not moving, and saying to them, I have a firearm on my person, what would you like me to do next? Then you might get shot. Everybody would say that, no matter who or what or where or when we're talking about. So to pretend that instead they've somehow changed and are saying anybody with a gun should get shot, no one's saying that. Everyone's pointing out, yeah, you don't bring a gun and then jump into a fracas with the police, dude, or with ICE, or with any law enforcement agent, especially in the midst of their operations. You don't do that. And if you do, yeah, you're likely to get shot. Right or wrong, it's likely. Whether the police can say accurately and truly and fairly that they thought you were going to kill them or that you were a danger or not, you still might die. Whether they're aggressive, corrupt cops that wanted you dead and just found a reason or planted a gun on you, right? Like that's been known to happen too. Because having a gun on you makes it almost impossible to argue against a perceived threat to life. So no, nobody's saying you deserve it if you carry a gun. Everyone's saying, why are you stupid enough to think that you should have a gun and then go start a fight with a police person? Yeah, you're going to die. You'd be lucky if you didn't. Not because it's right or wrong, because it's true. It's like people are saying, okay, is it right to go pepper spray a bear? Or is it wrong? Well, that's not really the question. The question is, are you going to die after you do it? And the answer is probably. So do you want to do it? It's up to you. Is your life actually in danger? And the pepper spray may give you a chance to get away? Sure, then you do it. Do you just walk up to the bear as it's like chasing another, animal or something it's trying to kill and you just start pepper spraying it? No, you're going to die. It's not a value judgment. It's a description of reality. And I will add that every responsible gun owner knows it. I'm one, and every other gun owner I've ever met and had the chance to talk to about things like this would say the exact same thing. So yeah, he had a gun. No, that doesn't mean he should get shot. Yes, it means he should have acted more responsibly than he did, especially if he didn't want to die. Also, the gun he had was specifically a Sig Sauer of some kind, of PP something, I don't know, whatever it's called. That gun is known to go off quite easily. There's plenty of videos of it. You can go find out the exact model. You can look it up, and you can. The first thing you're going to see is that it fires when it shouldn't. Essentially, I'm kind of shocked that he had it like up in his waistband the week before. Like, that's a danger. You want your ass cheek to get shot off. Apparently, not a responsible gun owner, though, it seems. And what seems from the video to have happened is that this agent came in and took his gun out of his holster and brought it out of the fracas, but we have no way of knowing if the other 7 agents had any idea that that happened. We also don't know if the fact that there was 10,000 idiots screaming and, whistling and making all this chaotic noise, if that noise wouldn't have been happening, could it perhaps have been more clear to the other agents that that man had been disarmed? Maybe. He doesn't even seem to know that he was disarmed because, yes, whether you like it or not, if you look at enough of the angles of the videos, he absolutely reached towards his holster, seemingly to draw his gun. But he didn't realize it had already been taken off of him, just like the agents might not have been known. If you don't know that you've been disarmed, it's not weird to think that perhaps the other people around don't know you've been disarmed. There's way too much happening at once. It's also not clear then if that gun had such an ease of going off, did it go off in the guy's hand? It looks like it and it sounds like it. We don't know. We weren't there, but that's what it seems like actually happened. And if that gun went off, then all the agents now are assuming that this man shot. And so now they're going to shoot him. If it's also true that that agent said something like, I've got his gun, or if someone said he's got a gun, or if anyone even said the word gun, that's a trigger word that danger is imminent and that you should watch out and potentially you might have to shoot someone to defend yourself. I was trained when I was learning to carry and use guns that if any law enforcement is around, I'd never say the word gun. The way it was explained to me was, you of course can say anything you want, it's your right. But if you're not an idiot and you don't want to get shot for no reason, you don't say gun, because let's just say, here's how it is explained to me. If I'm pulled over and there's 2 cops and one of them's at the window with me and he's saying, show me your license or whatever. And I, put my hands up and I say, hey, I have a firearm in the car with me or in my purse or whatever I want to say. And that would work. But if I say, hey, I have a gun on me, and the other cop that's there that might not be paying the closest attention hears the word gun, he's going to turn with his gun drawn and potentially shoot. Because that's the word. That's the key word to alert each other that there's a danger. Whereas firearm is not the word. Weapon is not the word. Right? So that's how I was trained. So if someone said gun, well, he's got a gun. That's the word. That's the word that means be on your lookout. So there's also that. Did it go off easily? Was it an accident? Was it because it was so loud no one even knew what was going on? Did they not even know he had been disarmed? Now a shot rings out and someone says gun, and so now you shoot him. Yeah, what a horrible tragedy and accident if that's what happened. And it's very likely that that is what happened. And if you can't put yourself in the shoes of the people who are the agents and did this shooting and wonder what might have happened, what is the training and what could have gone wrong, then that is your problem. You have a bias that prevents you from understanding reality. You don't even have to like them or be compassionate towards them to understand what it is that's happening and why it happened. So that's what seems like it perhaps happened. He was getting in the way. He was in the road. He was in their face. He had already aggressed upon them. He had already been a nuisance and interfering. And then he jumped in between them and a woman who they were pushing away because she was getting in their face too. They were pepper spraying both of them because they were both interfering, which is a felony. They were both already committing felonies and obstructing. And then he got in the middle and got handsy. And then everything went to shit. And then maybe his gun went off accidentally or who knows what. But by then it doesn't even matter because you were already aggressive and you have a weapon. And so any perceived potential threat has to be stopped. That's just how it is. It's just how it is. Again, whether we're talking about right or wrong or corruption or not, that is reality. Do you like it? I don't care. That's not the question. The question isn't who likes this. The question is, what is actually the law? What's likely? What are physics like? What are people and psychology like? And what are perhaps in the future the best ways to act if you're in any kind of a similar situation? If you're going to go inserting yourself and you're going to say protesting in this way is not terrorism and it's not aggressive, and I'm going to call this a protest and think that this is my right to do it, which is not potentially even the case, but let's just say you think it is, and so you're going to go do it. Well, perhaps you don't take a gun with you, and if you do, you don't then go get handsy and physical with agents who are in the midst of carrying out their activities, especially after you've already become a felon now. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you do. You do what you want. But if you got shot, most people like me would say, yeah, that makes sense. Again, we also had not just the fake Black Panthers last week, we also had the fake Patriot Front return. Very clearly a federal operation, very clearly actors. Those are the khaki wearing, blue coat wearing, masked supposed patriots, which everyone knows are not patriots. No actual patriot or member of the MAGA movement has ever met anyone who's even remotely related to anyone who's even heard of being in the Patriot Front. So that's another reason it's an op. But Katy Perry came out with a giant all-seeing eye on her chest, wearing the garb of the Scarlet Woman and holding herself as a doll. Katy Perry, who's dating Justin Trudeau now, in just the weirdest timeline possible. This is the weirdest timeline possible. Oh, we had 160 million people impacted by the winter storm. It was quite hyped up. Part of the thing that is always interesting to me are all the people who are like, this has never happened in my life. And I'm like, well, you're 20, so that's not that surprising. You find me an 80-year-old who says this has never happened in my life, and it'll be slightly interesting. And even then, it still won't be the thing that matters about this storm. Oh God. People haven't even heard the term 80-year, 100-year storm, any of that. We have those terms for a reason. It's because they're quite rare, but they happen. So we had another one. Hopefully you fared it well. Trump says we have a new secret weapon called the discombobulator. Sounding like a Ratchet and Clank gun. I believe I actually had a discombobulator in Ratchet and Clank. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's how we captured Maduro. That's cool. It's cool. We have directed energy weapons. We know. Don't worry. Okay. Oh, scientists have discovered a way to regrow cartilage and stop arthritis. Good. I think it has to do with stem cells. Murder has hit a 125-year low. That's cool. I like that. Take that. The FBI arrested the guy who, what is he, the woke farmer or something, who went into the church and he said, come and get me, to Pam Bondi. Well, they got him. So he's arrested. Yes, it is illegal to storm a church, whether you like it or not. The GOP barely passes DHS and ICE funding thanks to 7 Democrats who defied their party. That's kind of cool. Again, it's probably good to protect our country. I don't know. You might hate our country, but you might want to protect it. Again, we have the Department of War tweeting that we have directed energy weapons. I already knew that. I've already done shows on it years ago, but I've been made fun of it by people who are supposedly thoughtful, critical thinkers as recently as the past year. So it's like, yeah, I guess that's news to a lot of people, but there we are. More vindication. I'm telling you, it's not hard to figure out what's going on if you pay attention and you're not ill. Oh yeah, we had another Democrat, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, showed up to a violent anti-ICE protest and told protesters that she stood with them, supported them, and they should keep fighting. So lots of government officials getting involved in the anti-ICE stuff. She also is the one who seemed to say that we should shoot ICE agents. She said something like, yeah, if a masked agent is, accosting you, like, you should defend yourself. You might need to defend yourself. It seems like she's saying you should kill them. And so that's pretty great of her, right? What a good person. The U.S. Border Patrol said that over 300,000 lost children were trafficked across the border in the past 4 years. He said, when we've got the news media talking about children, I'd certainly love to hear more reporting on the 300,000 lost children. Yeah, I would too. I would also like that. That's the one thing they never seem to care about, is all the children who were trafficked into the sex trade and worse. By worse, I'm talking about pedivores. Oh, here's some good news. The U.S. officially left the World Health Organization. We'd already stopped funding. We'd already pulled back from a lot of things, and now we're officially out. Hallelujah. Praise God. What a good day. Ford and General Motors receive approval from federal regulators to set up banks, both of which will be chartered in the state of Utah. I don't know. It seems fine. I'm sure there's somebody who's going to tell me why it's wrong. I'm mostly ignorant to why it might be wrong, but I would think if they can finance people to buy their own stuff, like, cool, whatever. I'm sure more people will get cars that way, right? Oh, the AIs are going to make more medicine for us. The WEF people who were surprised, we talked about this last week, of how big the schism is and how apparent it was at this year's WEF than ever before. And it's the schism that I've been describing, which, by the way, I also get mocked for by people who are supposedly good critical thinkers. Stupid bitches. But this division that I've been pointing out for a while now between what I call the Satanists and Luciferians, you can also call them old money and new money. You can also call them the old order and the technocrats. It's up to you. I don't care. That division was on display in the WF like never before. I mean, like, openly, vitriolically, and everybody was talking about it. They were even talking about, like, wow, we've never had this much division before, and all of that. So it's been amazing to, again, be vindicated again. But the ECB president at WEF said, we've heard quite a lot of European bashing, that's what she's going to call it, the last few days. And we should say thank you to the bashers, because I think it's given us a complete realization of the fact that we have to be more focused. So she's actually saying, oh, shit, this division is way worse than we thought. This schism is way worse than we thought. We're losing way more ground than we thought we were. We need to focus up if we hope to win this. The war between these sides is not over. It's just starting. RFK Jr. announced that every grocer that accepts EBT will have to have more real whole foods, produce, vegetables, fruit, things that are healthy for people to buy. They have to double, he says, the amount of real food. I love it. Yes, if you're going to take food stamps, you should be only able to buy things that you actually should be eating to survive. This was cool too. Here's a win. And a German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, just called the European Union a complete failure. Yeah, it is. They should give it up. Stupid. We all knew that right when it started, before it started. TikTok, like we talked about, has formally been de-CCP-ified. It's at least now able to be affected by, if not controlled by, U.S. interests. So outside of the Chinese Communist Party, which is great for our kids and actually everyone, because it seems like adults also are brainwashed by TikTok quite easily. So that's a great, if someone's going to be in charge of the algorithm and brainwashing me and I have to choose, I'd rather it be the U.S. than the CCP. Just saying. Just like I'd rather it be the Luciferians rather than Satanists. I'd rather it the new money rather than the old. I'd rather it the technocrats rather than the old. Doesn't mean I like any of those options. Just means it's better. Trump asked, should I try for a fourth term? Because we all know this is his third. I'd rather he's won 3 times. So yeah, do it. Amy Klobuchar finally today has filed to run for governor of Minnesota. Remember when the person who Tim Walz seemingly set up to murder the officials in Minnesota, the guy who did it, who was caught, said that he was also supposed to kill Klobuchar to remove her as a potential, threat to Tim Walz and his leadership. Remember that? Yeah, weirdly now she's coming back. She's probably gonna be the governor. It'd be a lot cooler if it was someone else. I don't know who, but she's not cool either. But I don't know. Maybe she'll be better for people than Walz. Maybe she won't have so much fraud with illegal immigration. Maybe she won't be so entrenched. Maybe she won't be trying to, redistrict or steal votes or win by hook and crook in whatever way they can. Maybe she won't be trying to, mess with our electoral college votes and the census and all of that stuff that the Democrats seem to be doing. Maybe. Probably not. I'm just saying it's potentially possible. So maybe. Otherwise, I hope you have remembered today how much you are winning. I hope you have laughed at the agenda and known that it can't affect you unless you just ignore it or become ignorant to what reality holds for you. And that the best way to see through all of these psyops, these agendas, propaganda, and everything else is just to recognize when you become triggered and emotional, and at that moment stop and recognize you've already lost. You cannot think when you are reacting emotionally. It doesn't mean your emotions are horrible or bad or wrong. It means they cannot allow you to think. And so if you want to think and make it through all of this, you can't react emotionally. And if you do, you have to stop. And like I said last week, you have to ask, is this even real? Is it real as in, is it a psyop, a false flag? Is it real as in, is it AI? Is it real as in, is this even true? Or is it just a perspective that's missing a whole lot of context information? Am I ignorant of the situation? The vast majority of the time we have to say yes and do more investigation. So until you know it, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Glued to them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, a holly suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The pomp proceeders mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.